I gotta tell you something that you may not want to hear. Your marriage is going to change. Your partner is going to change. You are going to change. The only question is, will you fight it or lead it? Welcome to another Catalyst Conversation for a Relationship Revolution, where we challenge the unquestioned assumptions about love, flip the script on what you've been taught, and reveal the truths no one has told you. Here, we unlock a whole new paradigm of partnership, one that anchors in consciousness and empowerment and results in the kind of relationships most people only dream of. This month, and maybe I'll go another month, I think I will. We're diving into what I call liberating assumptions. Liberating as in breaking free, and assumptions as in that which we understand to be true. In this series, I'll be dropping truth bombs to set you free from the lies, misconceptions, and untrue beliefs that are holding you back and keeping you stuck in your relationship. Today, we're exposing the lie that change in your marriage is something to fear, resist, or avoid. The truth is, change is inevitable. The person that you married will not be the person that you leave this earth married to, assuming you make it that far, right? And you will not be the person that they married either. Yet most people are blindsided when change shows up. They cling to what was, resist what is, and end up feeling disconnection during times of change instead of growth. But if you want a marriage that lasts and that elevates you instead of drains you, you've got to get good at embracing change. And when you can not only embrace change, but also move through it from today's liberating assumption, you unlock both power and possibility in your relationship that most people will never touch. As always, this conversation might challenge you. It might make you uncomfortable, and it might just set you free. And that's the whole point. Now, if something in this conversation moves you and you know you want to go deeper in the transformation, then I want to invite you to join the Relationship Revolution membership. It's a $147 a month program that's going to give you the structure, the tools, and the support to move this learning into lasting change. I'm going to share more about it at the end of this conversation, but I wanted to plant the seed now, okay? All right. Before we go into more of the good stuff, let me take a minute to introduce myself for any of you who may be new to these conversations, to me, the work that I'm doing. My name is Dr. Jenny Wallig. I am an award-winning relationship mentor, speaker, author, educator, and I am a disruptor. I am on a mission to make this world a better place through more conscious and evolved relationships. See, I believe that much of the suffering in our world is caused because relationships aren't working. And the reason that our relationships don't work as well as they could is first and foremost because no one has bothered to teach us how to do them consciously. And secondly, most of us don't realize that we personally have the power to transform our relationships without waiting for someone else to change or do something different. It doesn't need to take two. It starts with one, with you. So I work primarily with women entrepreneurs who desire legendary marriages. I'm talking the kind of relationship that fills their souls and lifts them higher and supports their mission and all of their dreams, even if their spouse isn't doing the work with them at first. And yes, if their spouse does want to do the work alongside them, that's ideal. I get to work with them too. In fact, in that case, I get to bring my partner and soulmate, Calvin O'Seely, co-founder of Powerful Love Relationships, our business, into that work with the partnership. So in these catalyst conversations and in everything we do at Powerful Love, really, the goal isn't just to teach you how to do relationships better. It is to redefine and unlock what is possible and to empower you, fellow visionary, to have the relationship you desire and deserve without waiting on anyone else to get it. So, are you ready for today's conversation? Let's get into it. Most of us understand that change is constant, right? Everything shifts. We evolve, the world evolves, our children grow, right? Like inflation happens, politics change. We roll with it, right? But in marriage, somehow we miss the memo. And we don't really like, maybe logically we get that we're going to change and maybe our marriage will change, but like we don't really anticipate it. We kind of expect that things will stay the same. Maybe we understand that, like, you know, uh, kids are going to change things for us, or the new relationship energy that we feel in the beginning is going to die off. But generally speaking, we think that the person that we married is going to be the person we're going to grow old with, and that who we are, is going to be who we be as we go through life, and that the marriage we dreamed of when we said I do is the marriage that we're going to be co-creating through this life. And that's not usually what happens. Here's the hard truth, love. If you expect sameness in your relationship, you are going to set yourself up for heartbreak, because your partner will change. You are going to change. Your dreams, your desires, your bodies, your lives, your circumstances, they're going to change. And sometimes life is going to throw you a curveball that you were not prepared for, that you didn't sign up for, that you didn't anticipate or expect, that is going to make your vision of how this marriage, how this life was going to go, like, seem impossible, maybe even be impossible, and you're going to have to really readjust. And if you're not prepared for that, if you don't know how to be flexible, your marriage may not last, may not make it through that change. Not because of the change itself, but because of your resistance to that change. So, let me give you a little bit more information, right? We're talking about change. This is so important because of how inevitable change is, right? We know that it's inevitable, but our attitudes toward change typically negative, right? Like, we know this thing is going to happen, but we're like, oh, I hate change. I don't want things to change. Like, oh, change sucks, right? Like, we have this resistant attitude toward change, just generally speaking. And then when our partner changes, when our marriage changes, when our life changes, especially when that changes, like something that we don't prefer or didn't want, didn't ask for, we get upset. Why? I mean, I could go into an explanation as to why, but this isn't the time for that conversation. My point, though, is, i- if we sit back and think about it, really, it's a little bit silly that we know that change is going to happen, that this is like an inevitable part of our life experience, but we choose to anticipate those changes with fear and resistance. And we tend to react to those changes in our marriage with grief, with protest, and with nostalgia over what was. And that creates suffering. Listen, here's today's liberating assumption, okay? The new truth that will set you free, my friend. In every change, whether you want it or not, whether you label it as good or bad or indifferent, in every change, there is both loss and gain. So embrace change. In every change, there is both loss and gain. So embrace change. This liberating assumption is both a recognition of truth and a decision about what we're going to do about it, right? A recognition that change brings both loss and gain, and a decision about what to do about it. Let me tell you a story. Maybe you've heard this before. I don't have this story written down, and I may not be very eloquent at telling it, but I'm going to try to share the story. I maybe should have prepared it better. But there's this teaching story about a farmer who um, loses his horse. And his neighbor comes by and says, "Man, I'm so sorry that you lost your horse." And this farmer says, "Well, who knows what is good or bad." So the next day, the horse comes back with a, a, a bunch of other wild horses. And now the farmer has a whole bunch of new horses. And the neighbor comes by and says, "What good luck! Like, how fortunate. You now have all of these new horses for your farm. Amazing." And the farmer says, "Yeah, but who knows what is good or bad?" And then the next day, the farmer's son is trying to break one of these wild horses. And in trying to do so, he falls off the horse and breaks his leg. And now that son can't help the farmer work the farm. Neighbor comes by and says, uh, "Gosh, what bad luck that your son broke his leg." Farmer says, "Well, who knows what is good or bad?" And the day after that, army comes by recruiting for young, healthy men to fight in a war. Doesn't take the farmer's son because of his broken leg. And the neighbor comes by and says, "Amazing, what fortune that your son broke his leg so that he wasn't taken to fight in the army." This story is an illustration of change, of unexpected curveballs happening in life. And this farmer, in his wisdom, recognizes, like, yeah, there's not so good things here, but there could also be gains. There's losses and there's gains. Who am I to know if this is bad luck or good luck? Perhaps it's both. Maybe, definitely, let's assume that it is. Okay? This is the power of that assumption, that we can recognize that there is a both and in all of the changes. What happens when you start looking at the changes within yourself and within your marriage with that perspective and holding space for both and? Better yet, what happens when you make the choice to focus on and assume, even if you can't see it yet, that there will be positive changes. There will be gains, benefits as a result of the change that happened, even if you can't see them yet. Now, I'm going to get to that in a little bit more, or I'm going to get to that a little bit more in a little bit. I said that weird, but you understand what I'm saying, right? Okay, because I have some notes about, like, a couple of points I want to add in this conversation that I'm hoping that you can will help clarify and add some meat to this idea, right? Okay, so the liberating assumption, right? All changes have both gains and losses, so we embrace change. Oh no, my headphones want to die. Ugh, bad timing. All right. Hopefully you can still hear me and that outside wind noises don't don't interrupt us too much. I had to be outside today because it's just so beautiful and sunny, and I'm in the Seattle area, and pretty soon it's not going to be beautiful and sunny out here. All right. So, all changes, right? Whether you wanted them or didn't, expected them or were blindsided by them, are going to have gains and losses. That means every door that opens is going to close others. Every door that closes is going to open others. Look for the doors that are open, right? Recognize that even if you wanted something and you got it, that means that you had to let something go. We recently got a new van that I have been manifesting for a really long time. It's like, yay, what did I have to let go? The money that I'm like the $800 a month that I am spending now on a car payment plus car insurance. You know, the space in my driveway for my kids to take their bikes out of the garage and not hit our cars. Little things, right? My point is, you got to look. You might not
see that like, oh, this change was just all gain. No, there were losses there. Check it out. You'll see that I'm right. Likewise, no, this was just a loss with this change. Check it out. There are doors that opened. You may not be seeing them yet. Okay? Both are existing. So, what you focus on is what creates your experience. Okay? So, telling the story of the gains it shapes an experience of this change while inevitably painful. We can hold space for the pain. And pain is different from suffering. You can hold space for the pain and still recognize the gain. Another example, I recently decided to send my biological child to school after unschooling them for the last 7.5 years. So they're starting school in second grade. That also means that they're mostly living with my former wife, who lives too far away for me to see my child very often, except for on weekends. That is a huge loss. And I did not anticipate the grief that I would be feeling, the pain that I would be feeling. For a while, I was stuck in a focus on the losses of like, oh, I lost my child, the story of how I never see them, of how, like, what did I do as a mom, my feelings, blah, blah. And then I had to get out of that and focus on what am I gaining? What are they gaining? Like the fun they're having in school, the friends they're making, the routine that they're getting. What am I gaining in being able to have this quality time with them on the weekends? That's different. The focus on my business. As I shifted my story to focusing on the gain, it doesn't mean the grief goes away, but my experience of that grief, because now I'm not suffering alongside it, very different. Okay. So your focus, whether you're focusing on the gains or you're focusing on the losses, is going to change your experience of that change. Here's another thing, too, that's really important. A lot of the time, when a change is surprising or difficult or painful, the gains that we have from them are not clear until we have moved further along in our timeline, right? We see the gains in hindsight. Consider that story of the farmer that I shared. He did not see the gains of the hard things that happened until later on, until the next day in this story, just like he didn't see the losses until of the gains of the changes, right? Until the next day. So if we know that usually we can see the benefits of the hard things we go through in life after we've had some time and distance and space from them, can't we, while we're going through those changes, trust that later in life we will be able to see those gains, that they are here, that they are present? We just may not be seeing them, may not know what they are yet, that maybe actually we couldn't possibly anticipate the way that this change could unfold. What might happen next, how the universe might take this change in our life, in our marriage, in ourselves, in our spouse, and like take it, like make something else happen because of it that we never would have anticipated, that never would have happened had that change not occurred. But you can't see it from where you're sitting right now. This is a faith walk, love. It's a trust exercise. But I'll bet if you look back on other changes you have experienced in yourself, in your spouse, in your marriage, in your life, you will find that some of the hardest things that you've been through have resulted in some of the biggest gains, the biggest lessons, the greatest benefits that you have experienced. And sure, maybe you wish that there was some other way you could have gained those benefits than having had to go through the hard things to get there. But here we are in life. And life doesn't always deliver its lessons in an easy way, right? Sometimes we have to do our learning through contrast. So embrace it, okay? And focus on the gains, right? Choose your focus. You get to choose that focus. And even if you can't see what they are, trust that they will be there. Remember this liberating assumption. There are also gains, even when you're going through a change or a thing that feels really hard and you don't want it. I'll say this too. Change is inevitable. Resistance is optional. Okay? It's not usually the change that creates so much suffering. It's the resistance to that change that creates the suffering. Again, like I said, there is a difference between pain and suffering. Pain is inevitable in life. And like there's no escaping pain. Suffering is how we respond to pain. And a lot of the ways that we respond to pain increase and prolong, expand the experience of or intensity of the pain that we're in, right? So if you imagine a small circle of our pain, then the way we respond to that pain expands the circle, and now we're in suffering, and the pain that we're experiencing is like this big or this big instead of like this big. We call that clean pain. Change is inevitable. Resistance is optional. If you're resisting the change, you're going to be in suffering, and that is going to make it even harder for you. That's an important thing to realize here. And then kind of the last thing that I want to say about this is that flexibility, dear ones, flexibility in our lifetime is the foundation of health and wellness, and it is key to longevity in our marriage. I was at a conference recently with a woman who had been married to her husband for 43 years. And what she said is that she and her husband have been married 7 times. That in fact, she was speaking, her husband had been married 7 times to 7 different versions of her. And each version required an adjustment. Grieving the old, embracing the new, relearning how to be married to one another in this new version. That is the secret to lasting marriages, is adjusting, being flexible together, course correcting, working together, finding your way back to one another in reconnection, in response to the change and what this means. Okay? That is how you have a marriage that lasts a lifetime. When we're in rigidity of like, this is what I thought I was signing up for. This is who I thought you were going to be. This is what we had in the beginning, and I want that, and we don't have that anymore. And so now I'm not happy. That inflexibility can and will cost you your marriage. So learning to embrace change, love, and recognize that, yes, there are losses when these changes happen, but there are also gains. There are also gains. So let's be flexible with it. Let's embrace change. Let's focus on the gains. Then you can build a marriage that lasts. And not only lasts, that grows, that fuels your that fuels your life, that evolves, that you can co-create something that expands and becomes more and more and more and better and better and better beyond what you initially thought that you were signing up for at the beginning. That is the gift. That is the unlocking of the superpower of marriage, of relationships. But let me tell you, you are responsible for your response to change, right? This is why we say it doesn't take 2, it takes 1. This is the reminder of the power and influence that you have on your marriage. When you lead the shift through this change, when you lead the way you respond to changes, it's going to radically affect the trajectory of your relationship. You can't control how your partner does or doesn't go through the change, but you can lead your part and it will influence theirs. Okay, I know this is going long, but it's a good one, as they all are. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm just a long talker. Maybe I just need to embrace it. So here's what happens when you get good at this, friends. When you stop resisting change and instead start looking for the gains, everything um, everything shifts because everything is always changing, right? Then like every change, every day, every new adjustment, you get into this mindset of like, fuck, okay, now how do I adjust? You get to be upset, you get to protest for a moment, but you get out of that sooner, right? And instead of resenting your partner or resenting life or being frustrated and staying in protest and suffering, you get to evolve and you get to celebrate the changes. You get to embrace them and you get to decide what you want to make of them. Instead of clinging to an old version of your marriage or you or your partner, you get to intentionally co-create new and better over and over again. Instead of fearing what comes next or how this is going to work or what's going to happen, you start trusting the unfolding, knowing that you and your partner can handle it, even thrive in it. That is how you build the relationship that doesn't just survive decades, but gets better with every season of change. Imagine that. Isn't that what we're after? Inside the Relationship Revolution this week, our members are going to get an activation exercise to help them practice this flexibility in real time, because the muscle of embracing change is one that you build, and we give you the tools to build it. So if you're in the membership, keep an eye out for that activation. You don't want to miss it. Don't miss out on this practice activity. If you're ready to stop doing relationships the old way, and you're not in the Relationship Revolution membership yet, this is your invitation to join. If you're ready to be the kind of woman or the exceptional, evolved man who leads love like you want to lead your dreams, with power and consciousness and courage and intentionality, then this is the time to join. The Relationship Revolution is a monthly membership for visionary women and their partners who are done doing things the old way and are ready to take the lead in order to build the kind of extraordinary partnership that fills your heart, lifts you higher, and can expand everything. You get tools, you get support, you get structure, you get community, everything that you need to build a relationship that just keeps getting better. It's $147 a month. It's like a dinner, right? It's like a fancy dinner date. And you can cancel anytime if it's not meeting your needs. So it's low risk, it's high reward. And the truth is, embodied practice, like taking these ideas and putting them into practice and getting feedback about how to keep doing it better, that is the only path to lasting transformation. We don't get transformation just from learning. We get transformation by doing it and becoming it. Link to join is in the description. And I'm also posting the link to our YouTube channel so that you can follow and get even more of these amazing Catalyst conversations. I will look forward to seeing you next week for Catalyst Conversation, episode 4 of our Liberating Assumptions, where I am going to expose why the problem that you've been trying to solve in your relationship is not actually getting better. Catch these Catalyst Conversations live here every Friday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific, or binge them on our YouTube channel at Powerful Love. Until next time, my friend, keep leading with love.